Good afternoon, good evening, young professionals and parents. I can assure you it's a privilege and I think a very enriching experience to interact with the torchbearers of our nation. Uh, I'm a diplomat turned academic, as you've just heard, been basically in the foreign service. And as I was sitting here, relaxing, waiting for everybody to turn in, I was just reminiscing that one of our dignitaries, maybe the Vice President of India, is sitting there and I'm the ambassador and I'm hosting him in some country. And this is the kind of audience which we network and address. And how it's a mixture of talent, media personalities, businessmen, academics, professors, and artists, innovators, science and technologists. So that is the kind of environment, in fact, which we here at Jindal are trying to create. I'm standing in for our dean, and I think he is just going to come in. He's been traveling a lot, actually. He's been trying to send the message of Jindal School of International Affairs, propagate what we do all over the country. And he is a prolific writer. He is a TV anchor, TV commentator, and he keeps a very, very difficult schedule. It's very difficult to emulate. But I have just mentioned, and he's right here. He's got a very long life. So please welcome Dean Professor Dr. Sriram Chaulia. I was just holding in for you, sir, because he has been traveling extensively and he was in a web meeting. So I just mentioned, as I mentioned to you, I will come back to my formal address or my remarks. I was just marking time while the dean is here. I would just say that we at Jindal are trying to replicate all the excellence, all the academic and professional excellence which exists all over the famous centers of knowledge all over the world, here at Sonipat, Haryana in India. And I can assure you, a lot of our faculty is sourced from other countries. There are people who are from Stanford, Harvard. Dean himself is from London School of Economics, Oxford, Syracuse University. I've done a stint at Berkeley, US, UC Berkeley. So we are trying to replicate and resonate with those wonderful standards of excellence. And we're trying to bring it, encapsulate it here in your home territory. So that's what Jindal is all about. And as the name says, indicates it's Jindal Global. So we are trying to create a global experience for you, because today we live in a very, very interconnected world, a very interdependent world. So that is exactly what Jindal School of International Affairs aspires to do. I will not take more time. This was only meant to be an introduction and not to just keep repeating the video clip which was going on. I found it a little monotonous. So not to stand between you and the learned dean, may I have the privilege to call Professor Dr. Dean Chaulia to please make his introductory remarks. Sir.
Thank you, Ambassador Thapar. Greetings, everyone. It's so good to see you here. On behalf of the school and the university, I want to welcome you all to this great campus. I believe it's the first time for most of you, or have some of you come before? Okay. Well, it's a stunning place. As you can see, it's a kind of a little oasis we have created in the rural Haryana over the last 13 years. And I've been actually a faculty member since inception. So I've seen this institution come a long way. And the School of International Affairs was founded in 2011. This is actually our 11th year in existence. And we have graduated hundreds of students over the last 11 years, including masters, bachelors, and PhD. So it's a matter of some degree of satisfaction for us that we could create an institution like this, where young people like you aspire to come and study and make a difference in the world. I think there's never been a better time to study international affairs. There's never been a worse time also, in the sense the international order is crumbling, as you can see in front of your own eyes, and many of the certainties and the guarantees that we assumed will stay with us have just fallen off. So in that sense, the so-called post-Cold War order and all that are no longer existing, and we are in for something new and something unprecedented. So we are on the cusp of a big shake-up of the international system as a whole, and the manifestations of these are all these wars and extreme climatic events, as well as severe distress and suffering that you're seeing around the world with inflation and with social unrest and dissatisfaction with the existing systems. So in that sense, there's never been a worse time, because no matter how well we study it, we are simply unable to really confront the real world challenges or predict real world crises or problems before they occur, or preempt them. So to that extent, there's a limit to the knowledge that we all accumulate and circulate around ourselves in the name of social sciences. But nonetheless, there is merit in studying it. And in that sense, there's never been a good time, because you are all in increasing demand, I find, especially with careers, because people realize that, you know, war happening 6,000 miles away has a direct impact on the pocketbooks of people across the world. I mean, we are talking about the UN has identified something like 65 to 70 countries in multiple regions of the world that are facing severe shortages of food, fuel, fertilizer, and are also in severe financial distress, all as a kind of knock-on effect of this war that's going on in Europe, but also the previous crisis that is not even over yet, which is the pandemic, which continues to raise its head now and there. So it's a kind of like a era of cascading crises, and where the demand for young people who understand these, who understand the linkages between them, and who can potentially find safe havens or shelters from these winds, from these turbulent winds. That's the kind of careers increasingly we are finding for our students. For example, the one that's the lot that's graduating this year, a lot of them are going into risk analysis and risk consultancies, because of this realization that nothing is really local or domestic anymore. You can't shield yourself from impacts of what is happening, no matter in the farthest corner of the planet. So it's that kind of a integrated, what we call a single international or a global system. So we are all in it, and it's a question of who is suffering more and who is suffering less, because suffering is just being universalized. So some of you may have seen the UN Secretary General is making repeated appeals to open up the blocked supply chains for food, fertilizer, energy, and for finance. All these are stuck, and you're finding countries that are on the verge of bankruptcy. Right next door, our southern neighbor, Sri Lanka, has already seen the worst effects of it. So they're going to be at least 50 or 60. Lebanon in the Middle East, where in fact we have distinguished colleagues who have served in these places as ambassadors. The situation is really bad, and it's getting from bad to worse. And frankly, there are very few guardrails or leaders to somehow hold these countries together. So no matter what, for example, India does in Sri Lanka, or what the Gulf monarchies and Iran do in Lebanon, just to give you two examples, or what South Africa can do for its less fortunate neighbors in Africa, or Nigeria can do for its neighbors. The point is that relatively stable countries or bigger countries are in no position to really shore up everyone. And in many cases, they themselves are in deep trouble. So think about this kind of chaos or anarchy or disorder, or simply a kind of a slow collapse. That's what is happening. That's how I see it. So people are scared. People are insecure. Institutions are scared. Institutions are insecure. And there's all-round fear and uncertainty. So it's that kind of a environment in which all of you are coming in to take up the study of politics and international relations and related subjects. So in that sense, it's never been a better time, because what you do here, you equip yourself with skills and with knowledge and with deeper insights into these problems. And then obviously we cannot solve these problems, but like I said, we can possibly assure and mitigate some of the risks for interested institutions and individuals. So that's where I see it going. The diplomatic world is also in a kind of they're sleepwalking, because they really don't know what the end point of this cataclysmic shift is. They have no idea what is coming, and everyone is guessing or trying to put on their thinking caps and see where we are heading. The worst case scenario is world war, but short of that, there are very, very distressing and dangerous signals that we are seeing. So this is what a degree in a place like Jindal does. It helps you to get on top of the issues first, be analytically strong, and then possibly offer solutions, policy relevant recommendations, and prepare yourselves to be, if not problem solvers for these big global challenges, at least to mitigate the risks, like I said. So that's the scenario I'm laying out, the macro scenario for where you are coming in at this stage in 2022, third decade of this century. Here, what we have tried to do is keep up with these transformations, keep up with these earthquakes, and enable our students to think about these cutting edge and emerging issues without being stuck in silos, disciplinary silos. None of our programs, for example, is called a bachelor's or a master's in international relations. And the reason is simple, because that's just one subfield of political science. But we do a lot more than that, right? So without being stuck in disciplinary, rigid disciplinary categories, what we try here is to combine your understanding of all these things from multiple lenses and multiple disciplines. So this is inherently an interdisciplinary school. Even our political science honors. Are there BA political science students in the audience? Anyone? Yeah, we have a few. Even our political science program, which looks like a single discipline program, like a classic single discipline program, is not so. You'll find in the curriculum that you're doing a lot of comparative studies. You're actually measuring the same phenomena across multiple domains and jurisdictions. So that's and global affairs, diplomacy, foreign policy, and the MA diplomacy, all these programs are inherently interdisciplinary. So they build upon the core disciplines. So you'll find, if you go into the curriculum, you find the first semester, your foundations are being laid in the core social sciences. You're doing economics, you're doing history, you're doing political science, you're doing sociology, and a little bit of philosophy also. So these are the fundamental social sciences. And when we launched MA DLB in 2011, people were shocked because they'd never heard of anything like that. They'd only known MA in international relations. So we actually justified it both pedagogically and what we call epistemologically at the level of knowledge, and of course practically also in terms of careers, that interdisciplinary is the way to do it. So and breaking the silos. And when we launched a BA Global Affairs in 2015, it was a seismic shift. In fact, nobody had done an honors program focused on international affairs at the undergraduate level in India before. So now a few other universities have caught up and are trying to do similar things. But BA Global Affairs is a unique program which has never been attempted hence or even before before we launched it. So again, it builds on the core social sciences and then takes you to the next level. The orthodox view was you cannot do this at the bachelor's level. You have to wait until the master's. Many of us from earlier generations, we had a deep interest in world affairs, but we could not earn a degree in this country in this field after high school, after 12th. So we have created this, and it's a matter of satisfaction for us that now a few other institutions are starting to imitate us. Then BA Diplomacy Foreign Policy. Are there students who have enrolled in the DFP? Yeah, this is again an innovation, something that no institution has thought about before, and something we believed that there is a separate track. Some of you could possibly get confused between global affairs and diplomacy and foreign policy, but we have shown the distinction for those who care to look at it with detail. And you will find it that this is a more specialized one. Global affairs is a broader interdisciplinary social science, but diplomacy, foreign policy, distinguished people like Ambassador Ravi Thapar, Ambassador Mohan Kumar, Ambassador Abdul Fatah Moura, they are not here because the summer, and they're all away at this time for their for the summer breaks. But the point is, you have many former diplomats among our faculty, among our full-time faculty, who are engaging with students and who are going to be training those of you who are aiming at careers in the foreign service or in the UN system about everything that you need to do, right from the choice of electives to the kind of internships and ultimately to your intended career goal. So in this country, there was no institution that was offering young people with an interest in these fields, anything like this. So we have in that sense, we are peerless and we have no competition. We are not like our law school or a business school where there are, of course, competing programs and still they're good. But the point is, in our case, we are like what we in Latin is called sui generis, one of its kind. And we continue to grow. There were many people who were skeptical. Let me tell you, in 2011, when we launched the JSIA, there were many who were skeptical that it would even be viable. There were many who thought that we would not even get like 10 students to ever enroll in our programs. But progressively, through word of mouth, through employer satisfaction of our alumni, through high level of scholarship, through public visibility of our faculty in the news media, and through publications, we have made a niche for ourselves. So I welcome you all to this Temple of Learning. What we are is a very serious institution without any frills and without any pretensions. What we are doing here is trying to engage with all of you and to mold your minds and to, of course, make you free thinkers to also decide what is the right argument for you on each and every issue. It's a very pluralistic institution. You will find a balance of left, right, center, all viewpoints here. It's also a very democratic institution. You'll find that from the vice chancellor downwards, university administration is accessible to students and to parents. And it's also, of course, a great place to live. It's a residential university. We have a small non-residential master's program that happens in Delhi every weekend. But other than that, all the bulk of the programs are here. We do, of course, have a fully online new master's degree we are doing with Coursera called the MA International Relations, Security and Strategy. But that's frankly, for working professionals and people who are spread out around the world. But that's also doing wonders. Last year, we admitted something like 88 students from 36 or 37 different nationalities in that program. And I myself am teaching in it, and many of my colleagues are. So that is a separate track, different from all of you. And frankly, there's no parallel between the full on-campus experience and that, because that's still a remote learning thing. And here on the campus, apart from the classroom and the intellectual discourse, there's so much else that you can absorb through peer interaction, and also like the interdisciplinarity I spoke about. Law is the biggest cohort here in the campus. I think this 8,800, 8,700, 8,800 is the total enrolled students as of now before fall. I mean, I'm not counting all of you, because formally you will only start from August. And out of whom probably 5,000 or more are just students of law school. So in that sense, it's a huge school, or it's maybe the main pillar of this university, but it's not the only one. There's a business school, there's of course JSIA, there's School of Public Policy, School of Liberal Arts, School of Environment, School of Journalism, School of Public Health, that's just starting this year, School of Languages, and a few others that I'm missing. The point is, this is a full-fledged humanities and social science university. And you get to make friends across the aisle with people across the schools, and engage with them on issues of contemporary and historical concern, and grow intellectually. So that's a huge part of this, of the Jindal experience. I'm happy to say that whenever, I mean, even casually, I live on campus, and when I pass by and I hear students, they're actually talking about issues in this place, mostly. Yeah. So in that sense, I find that there is this whole co-curricular or extracurricular environment that nourishes your mind, and we prioritize the intellect over everything else. It's that kind of place. And so I've always seen our students coming in right after high school or right after a bachelor's degree, and then there's a huge transformative process, a churning that happens while they are here with us. And by the time they go out, they're ready to do that firefighting or the risk mitigation I was talking about earlier with the real world problems, if not solving them altogether. So that should be education, right? And what is more surprising, or rather a matter of delight, which I would like to share with all of you, is apart from the careers, which of course you will hear from our colleagues who are helping with the careers, the thing is, there's a lot of you are winning major prizes and honors, big essay competitions, debate competitions, model UNs. Our students are actually have been cited by employers after graduating for being the best among their new recruits. Why? Because they have gone through this rigorous training and this intellectually enriching environment. So I actually envy all of you, because I'm now in my early 40s, and we didn't have any such institution catering to international studies and politics when I was out of high school. So I feel like this is a long due. This should have happened long ago, but finally we realized that at least we owe it to the next generations, and we've created this. And there were people, like I said, in 2011 when JSIA was being created, who said, well, we're not even sure if it'll work. What kind of offbeat thing are you doing? Is it purely out of is your brainchild, or have you done a market survey? Are there people interested in this field? We thought there would be, and we have been pleasantly surprised over the years. So now we are, as of this fall, sorry, not counting all of you, as of the academic year 2021-22, there were 520 students, and 38, 39, close to 40 full-time faculty members. So that's a phenomenal increase compared to the time we launched. When we launched in 2011, we had 41 or 42 students and 5 or 6 full-time faculty. So you see the exponential growth, so to say, in 10 years. It's not as big as law, but the field itself is such that it's always a niche field. We cannot make it a mainstream one. It can never be equivalent to a law or a business school. But short of that, what we are trying to do is to create this big cluster of young people who are very well trained, who are very articulate, who are highly knowledgeable, who have undergone this highest quality education in the country. So, I mean, many of our faculty are renowned scholars and are very well known in their respective fields of specialization. So to learn from them, many of our faculty are non-Indian international faculty. Many of faculty are practitioner scholars like Ambassador Thapar. So just imagine the possibilities of learning from such people. And I don't think any institution in this country can boast of this kind of a galaxy of stars among the faculty. So therefore, you made the right choice. Number one, congratulations. And two, I want to assure the parents in the audience that you've made the right choice, or you've let your child make the right choice, because the alternative to this, frankly, if I were a parent, is to try and send my kid overseas and abroad, because there's no parallel to this. Like I said, we are peerless, and it's either Jindal or you go abroad. And if you can't afford it, then what do? Then you have to settle for something less than a Jindal in India. And I don't think that would be doing justice to your child's potential. So you've made the right call. And we are here to, of course, address any of your concerns or queries. But the bigger issue is that you've made the right call. So that's the crux of what I want to say. Some of you might be anxious, some of you might wonder about residence and hostels and such things, but frankly, those are secondary. I mean, they're all good, they're all outstanding, and you'll see those. The point is, it's not a bricks and mortar that make institutions, it's people and human resources. So it takes an enormous amount of vision and leadership to create a democratic and vibrant institution like Jindal. So over the years, that culture, that work culture here, you will find it very unique and different from a typical Indian university. So it's not bureaucratic. Like I said, it's less hierarchical, and it's very participatory. Our students are engaged in so many amazing societies and activities. Do we have any seniors here today, Harsh? No? Oh yeah, of course. See, what a coincidence. See, Professor Manoj Panigrahi is actually our own alumnus. So he went to Taiwan and studied at National Chengchi University and got his PhD. He's a specialist in East Asian studies. But he's also our alumnus. But I think most of our current students and alumni are all away because the summer, and this time of the year, the campus itself is deserted. But you will find from talking to all of them, engaging with them, that what is an educational institution? I'm asking you to think at a very, very fundamental or basic level, right? It's something that should elevate your minds and take you to a different level in terms of your skills and abilities. That's what we are doing here. And there's a constant striving for maintaining the highest standards and to actually raise the standards. But our students are also doing, like I said, doing wonders. I get so many emails thanking us around the months of May and June, and even April, May, and June every year. And this year has been no different. We are emerging hopefully from the pandemic, although it keeps coming back. And the thank you notes are simple. Dear sir, I'm so happy to inform you that I've been offered this position or that position in this institution or that institution. And it is all possible thanks to your guidance and to the faculty and the people who mentored us and who gave us these opportunities for study abroad, for semester abroad, for dual degree, for internship, and who wrote references for me, and our career services staff who guided me through the process of doing the interview. And at the end of all this, I have this, and I'm so thankful and I'm so grateful to you. And JSI changed my life. That's I'm kind of generalizing it. Each message is obviously unique to the type of achievement of each graduating student. But that's the kind of thing that ultimately makes us it's a self-validation for us that we exist for a good reason, and that we are filling a gap in this country, a big country where there has never been any attention to advancing international studies, especially at the undergraduate, at the bachelor's level. So even our master students, how many among you are from the MADLB? Yeah, even our master students over the years, I mean, there have been some master's degrees in the country, and I would not say ours is the only one, but then the way we designed it, that interdisciplinarity, that has stood out. The way we are training students. Do you know that our bachelor's and master students learn research methods and theories which are never taught at the bachelor's or master's level anywhere in the country or in anywhere in this part of Asia? We do it. So those kind of things are invaluable. We also do things like negotiation. So writing skills, obviously, argumentation, writing skills, negotiations. There's a whole course on negotiations being done by Ambassador Venu Rajamani, another retired foreign service officer who's actually in the law school but teaches some of our students too. Then statistical methods, Professor Rohit Jyotish is here. He's Dean of Admissions, but also he's been instrumental in helping us set up these additional learning tools on statistical methods and quantitative analysis that are really crucial, both for political science and international relations students. So these kind of things really stand us apart. And what we have tried to do is understand from potential employers what they're looking for in our graduating students, and try to fill those gaps before they graduate. There are a small number of our master students who also go on to do PhDs. And every year we have amazing news about our students getting accepted with full scholarships in outstanding international institutions to do PhD degrees. There are some who complete our bachelor's and continue on to our own master's degrees, or go on to overseas institutions or to other institutions across the country for the master's. And there also, I find that we have really imbued in them sufficient amount of understanding and skills to be able to apply for higher studies. So ideally, those of you who are entering the bachelor's programs, 3-year programs are not sufficient. This is just the first step of the ladder. You must invest in at least 5 years of higher education, by which I mean a 3+2, at least a master's, if not a PhD. And those of you who are in the master's, for 90% of the master students, this is the terminal degree. They go on and, like I said, do so well in embassies, in think tanks, in research institutions, consultancies, NGOs, even for-profit corporate houses who need people with social science backgrounds. So, but then there are some who go on for the advanced doctoral studies as well. We have a small but growing PhD cohort of around 30 or so students who are writing doctoral dissertations. So, or as the ironic formulation goes, from cradle to grave, from bachelor's to PhD, we have it all here. And we've built it with a lot of love's labor. You'll find that this institution has a lot of remarkable people who can inspire you and get you to think big and to, if not change the world, I mean, like I said, at least do the firefighting and the risk mitigation. So I want to welcome you all again. And of course, we're happy to take comments and queries from all of you, and happy to address all of them. But let me simply end by going back to the formulation that I started off, which is the best of times and the worst of times. You know, that's those of you who've read Dickens, The Tale of Two Cities, about the 18th century London and Paris. It was the best of times and the worst of times. So these are those kinds of times. And all I can say is that those comforting thoughts and assumptions have all fallen by the wayside. So we need you all to rise to the occasion and to really immerse yourself in study, deep study and deep knowledge and deep learning, because there's no other alternative. There's no other alternative to our own survival and survival of the species. So welcome to this temple of learning and knowledge, and yeah, good luck with your endeavors, and it's a good choice you've all made. Huh? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure all of us sitting here must have been enlightened by your thoughts and whatever you shared and everything about the school, which is one of the most important place for all of us to be in. And since I did not get opportunity to introduce sir, but I'll not miss the opportunity any which way. Sir is a leading opinion columnist for Indian newspapers, Dainik Jagran in Hindi and Mint in English, on world affairs, and a commentator on international current issues on radio and television. He anchors the Indian diplomacy TV show on India's national broadcaster Doordarshan. He is contributing editor for People Who Influence the World's Murray Books 2005, and has authored international organizations on civil protections, power, ideas, and humanitarian aid in conflict zones. IB Taurus 2011, Politics of the Global Economic Crisis, Regulation, Responsibilities, and Radicalism. The foreign policy of India's Prime Minister, Bloomberg's 2016, and Trump's emerging powers in a post-America's world, Bloomberg's 2019. His latest book is Crunch Time, which is on Narendra Modi's national security crisis. He tweets on global economic and political developments with his ID at Sriram Chaulia. So it's a very brief introduction which I gave for sir. And to read more about sir, we can visit our website, and just type his name on the Google, and you'll be able to see his contribution as a social scientist to the society and also to the student community in particular. Now I'll again request Sir Professor Ravi Thapar to come and continue from where he left. Sir, please.
I hope you're not already tired of listening to me. But yes, that was a very enlightening address by Dr. Chaulia. He's, quite like a knowledge console with buttons all over. You press, Indo-Pacific outcomes, Indo-Pacific, you press, India's strategic foreign policy, you get insights from that. You talk about the global economy, and out goes that stream of knowledge. So to continue, basically, the thought and the perspective which I was sharing just while we were waiting for Dean Chaulia. This is one, I would say, place which encapsulates a very special kind of experience, simulates a lot of those trends which are out there in the big wide world, which some of us from the academic stream, scholars, social scientists, historians and practitioners like myself, we collaborate, and basically what we are trying to do is to empower you and launch you into the global sphere, the global realm. Why is that important? Why should you study at all the global affairs, bachelor's in global affairs, diplomacy and foreign policy, MA in international relations and security strategic studies, which is of course a Coursera program. We offer 5 of these degrees. Why at all? Why is it that you should come to Jindal and not go to Delhi University or even JNU? Well, the fact is that we are addressing some of the most contemporary issues which prevail in the globe today. And I was just scribbling off a few of them. All of you, of course, would have got some insights even at JNU or Ashoka or some other university on peace, disarmament, and security. But we are also giving emphasis on global economic development, global growth, global disparity, inequality. I was personally teaching the global inequality divide in the last semester, this semester. And I would be teaching the challenges faced by the global south in the next semester. That's just to give you an example. There are academics and scholars who are doing research on energy, Energy is a very important player today in world politics. The shortage of water might cause the next war. There's food security and agriculture. There's global trade, which brings us and deflects us and diverts us into the World Trade Organization. We've just had our honorable, Commerce and Industry Minister come back from Geneva. There were some important negotiations on the vaccine, IPR relaxations, and on agriculture, where we didn't make much progress. There is an impasse right now in the WTO. It's an ACME, it's a peak organization, apex organization for world trade. We dabble in those themes. There's also a very important thing which we are experiencing right now, which is global warming. I mean, the heat wave, unprecedented global warming. So there's insights and courses which you can engage, pertaining to environmental studies, climate change, and global warming. We've already crossed the threshold of 1.5 degrees Celsius, which was supposed to be done, after the last climate change talks, which was supposed to be done by 2030. But we've already passed that. And 2 degrees is all that we can tolerate, because beyond that, it will be dangerous for the human anatomy. It will impact on our agriculture. It will impact on our, glacial, the melting down of glaciers, rivers, et cetera, and how much work time our workforce, particularly in India, where we have a lot of manual workers working in the fields. So they'll have to change their work schedules. They'll have to work in the early mornings, late evenings, et cetera, et cetera. So this is a very important theme which impacts on us. There's counterterrorism. I used to lead that dialogue from MEA for 3.5 years to different world capitals. How radicalization and indoctrination and how giving it political, mixing religion with politics, how this can confuse the young mind, which has not got anything to do, and how they feel falsely empowered. Because one of the things is, one of the recipes for terrorism is give an unemployed idle mind and fill him with a false sense of commitment, a false sense of power. Maybe it's religion, maybe it's about importance, and he'll become indoctrinated. So global terrorism, counterterrorism, international organizations, about the UN, it's not doing what it's supposed to be doing. That's why we have a problem in East Europe today. One of the major powers, veto powers, has decided to walk away from the UN Charter principles. So how are we going to address all this? Well, we have scholars, we have people researching on this, and we would welcome your young energy and talent in working with us and creating solutions, suggesting solutions, making policy recommendations in papers, writing it out, et cetera, et cetera. Then we have, the regional groupings, the Quad. We've just had the in-person meeting. Prime Minister was there about 6 weeks ago with Australian, Prime Minister, Japanese Prime Minister, and the US President. So how the Indo-Pacific is playing out, how one of the countries in the Northeast is decided to just, disobey international principles and unilaterally take positions which will affect global maritime trade and other such issues. So how does it impact on us? Well, this is very, very important, because unless we have free maritime, trade channels, we as an exporting country or the trading powers in the world will not be able to, get goods and services across. So you also, of course, can engage on the G7, which is the developed countries grouping, the G20, which is very, very important, where India is one of the founding members. How to reform the global monetary and financial architecture. These are all themes which are today extremely important on the international horizon. Preferential trade groupings, because the WTO is in a stalemate. So countries are no longer patient. They want to enter into smaller groups. We walked out from the Regional Comprehensive Economic Program, RCEP, last year or a year and a half ago, because we felt that our interests are being compromised and that we'll be giving more. If we lower the tariffs and we open our markets, we will be allowing foreign industries and multinationals to come in and make use of our market, but correspondingly, India will not get as much market share. Either you give entry to the services sector, allow visas for our professionals, engineers, etc., and you also have something built on technology and innovation. You have some kind of investment which will bring technology and innovation in our country. So there's a kind of a quid pro quo which you balance off. Unless that is there, this kind of grouping is not going to work for us. So we walked away from this. So the reasons, the whole process is the backdrop and background, which goes into these regional or preferential trade groupings. We study them and we empower ourselves. There's also, I mentioned about the world inequality. You'll be surprised, experts like Jason Heikel, Thomas Piketty, they have actually documented how in 1500 and before colonialism prevailed, India and China were commanding more than 50% of the world economy. We were almost at 60%. That was the kind of power. That was the kind of position we had. And after after we got colonized, etc., we have steadily lost our power, economic heft, and all the raw materials have been used by the colonial powers. And because of the manufacturing and innovation and industry, etc., they got the opportunity and they've used it. And the Bretton Woods institution like the IMF, the World Bank, unfortunately, which was supposed to give a push and boost to economic development, have not done so. So these are some of the issues which need to be studied in order that the developing South countries are able to also catch on. And because if they don't, we might have a situation where the global order might get disrupted. How long will people and youth, young populations in Africa wait it out? Will they keep waiting for the liberal democracies, the Western liberal democracies, to bring them prosperity? Or they might take the law in their own hands, like we did in the Arab Spring. And that would mean a disruption of the existing world order. So these are some of the themes which I'm just bringing for your attention. And about cryptocurrency, what is the impact of cryptocurrency, how things are going to be, playing out, whether that will, how do we take care of the black marketeers and, the online crime, et cetera, et cetera. So these are aspects which are today in the global stream. Now, you find that if you are negligent, someone in how it impacts on your life. If you are negligent, if you're not alert, someone can hack into your internet at home and get into, privacy issues. The car, I'm always very fond of saying it, even in my online engagements, the car you drive depends on the emissions which your government has committed to because of global warming. So the energy, today we are having a problem because of Russia and Ukraine. There's also a problem on wheat and agriculture, which the world is facing. So how international developments play out and impact on our personal lives. Now, if you're going to be joining a multinational and you're going to devise the business strategy for your multinational, it could be the Tatas, it could be the Birlas, it could be the Goenkas, whichever multinational you represent, or you're in the Google or Facebook or whatever, you have to know these international trends, because otherwise, how are you going to devise an effective business strategy? So while diplomacy does prepare you to be a foreign service officer, if you're lucky, I was, but it's not necessary. You may be a very brilliant person. I can assure you, you may be more brilliant than us in the foreign service, but sometimes it's just luck. You may not make it in those lists. Nevertheless, you're having studied the degree here, whether it's the Master of Arts, Diplomacy, Law and Business, or it's the Bachelor's in Diplomacy and Foreign Policy. It's not a waste, because what it has done is it has honed and strengthened certain key tendencies and skills in your mind. And it has taught you to become a strategist. You are getting an overview, a bird's eye view, and you're able to take an overarching kind of perspective. And then through that paradigm and that lens, when you apply it to your particular, avocation, you can give a very good strategy. So that helps you to become not only a diplomat or a foreign service officer, it also helps you to become a strategist, a business consultant. You can join a media agency. You can become, as Professor Chawlia was saying, a risk analyst also, depending on, because we teach you about security study. So it's an array of occupations which these courses, bring you into contact with. So these are very important skills, and whether you want to join, an MNC, a think tank, an NGO, a media organization, I think the Jindal experience is a very special experience. So we are just looking forward, depending on your interest, because when students keep quiet, whether it's online sessions or when I'm teaching in class, then it's energy going waste. It's no point. We are here to draw out the best in you. So one very, very important qualification I would emphasize as a professor, practitioner, diplomat, former diplomat is don't feel shy. And I don't know why you should, because Jindal gives you so much freedom otherwise. It will unlock your personality. It will unravel, as it were, your strengths. So use this opportunity, express yourself. Of course, don't break the law, don't break guidelines, but engage with the professors. I always tell my class, and so do the others, criticize our theory, differ with us. You are bright minds. You are turbo engines raring to go, and we would like to benefit from that energy. So depending on how you react and depending on the interest you take and the focus you assign to what is being taught, you can empower yourself. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to basically empower you. We're trying to fortify you. We're trying to hone out the academic and professional personalities, which will be global. So wherever you go, whether you go to the UN, whether you go in the government or in the business environment, you will excel. Because whenever there is excellence, wherever there is excellence, there's always space. So let me just summarize my comments by saying that if you're out in the rain, you will get wet. If you're out in the sun, you will be affected by the heat. If you're out here at Jindal, you will be affected by the excellence environment which is here. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you once again. Now I'll request Professor Rohit Jyotish to please come and share his thoughts with the student. Professor Rohit Jyotish is Assistant Professor with Jindal School of International Affairs.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rohit Jyotish. All of you have been here for a while, so I won't take much of your time. I just want to spend a bit of time to explain what we do in the classroom. I primarily teach a couple of core subjects for the political science undergraduate program. One of those subjects is called electoral politics and analysis, something which is quite standard in any political science program. And another one which is called political economy of development. So what I would like to say about these programs and through the classroom, the way we engage with these courses within the classroom, show you how it is different from conventional political science programs across our country. For instance, in political economy of development, usually it's a subject that is taught at the master's level for economics programs. So if you take up maybe, you can look it up online. If you go to Yale or Harvard and you look up a bachelor's degree or a master's degree in economics, you will usually see that as part of an econometrics course. But what we do here is offer it as a core subject at the undergraduate level so that you get ahead. And when we talk of political economy of development, it gives you a particular advantage in international affairs. How? Because in international development, what we need to understand is that there are developing countries, there are underdeveloped countries, and there are advanced countries. So historically, how have they diverged in development trajectories? What are the reasons for those divergences? And we also, if you've been listening to the dean, we talked about how we emphasize research methodology at the undergraduate level itself, which means that we'll talk about causal factors. That is, we don't just go through readings of descriptions of countries. We'll talk about when is it valid to say that this factor was responsible for causing development of some kind in one country as opposed to another country, which means that you are being prepared at a higher level of analytics at the undergraduate level itself. Now, if I could just explain a bit about how different our electoral politics program is. Again, electoral politics, the way we've done is, I can tell you how I taught it last semester, for instance, to the super seniors of the undergraduate students who will be joining this semester. one half of the course is dedicated to the political economy surrounding elections. That is, in a typical Indian election, you will have to deal with issues related to caste, religion, ethnicity at large, all sort of issues related to geographical spread. We will deal with that. And in the second half, we'll deal with exclusively statistical analysis. At the undergraduate level in political science, it is one of the few courses in the country that offers statistical analysis. And we don't just do it by hand. Because we live in a world with big data, what we use is a software called R. R is an open source software. So you can download it and do it right now, in fact, on your phone, and you can do it right now. We use open source data, which means that you can download the data from sources available online, again for free. We use that in the classroom itself, and you generate election reports on your own. In fact, your midterm assignment, if you're taking my class, would be that in the last Lok Sabha elections, I would ask you questions in class itself. So your questions will be like, why did the winning margin of this candidate change from a previous election to this election? What do you think is the competitive advantage of one party over another party in between states? And in the final exam for last semester, we just got over a month ago, your election report was on the UP elections. And something which I am very proud of is that every single student in class generated their own statistical analysis using a software. And in the beginning of the semester, all of them were telling me, sir, मुझे ये तो मैं नहीं कर सकता. Software क्यों सिखा रहे हो? Undergraduate level. But in the modern world, you need to get your hands dirty this way. And the only way to do it, I felt, is that I sit along with the students in class and solve the problems myself. And then I say, who's going to solve it faster? So the questions are questions a lot of the time I think of myself while I'm in the classroom, because I shouldn't get an advantage over the students. So in that way, we can sort of make it a discussion. It'll be a fun challenge. And this is something that is possible in our university because of the Institute of Eminence status we have. It means that we have a lot of freedom with how we can design our course manuals, with our pedagogy. And it also becomes possible with a lot of the centers that Professor Dean has talked about, and also Ambassador Thapar, that we have several centers. And one of those centers, as we were talking about, is the Center for Analytical Research and Engagement, which is founded by Dr. Soham Das in our department. And something that we did in the last semester was sort of develop a fictional data set. So I'm sure many of you students, parents as well, would have heard of Lord of the Rings. So what we did was that we created fictitious data based on countries in the Lord of the Rings. So we talked about maybe Mordor, which is the evil country if you followed Lord of the Rings, would have, say, a natural resource level of this much, government accountability of this much. Maybe they have universal adult franchise, probably not because they are evil. Then you have a lot of other issues with respect to development indices. And on the basis of that fictitious data set, we asked every student to talk about how the level of per capita income of a country would be related to the development. So that way, you can also generate your own analysis of a fictitious data set. So basically, we're trying to sort of prepare you for maybe when you start working in an MNC, you are in an environment where people depend on you to come up with original insight. So how can we do that in the classroom? So this is something we have been able to do in the last semester, and a lot of our different courses do that. We have been even be able to do, and I think the IR faculty will be more qualified to say this, simulate war games in class so that we can specifically talk about how to deal with strategic situations. So there are lots of possibilities when it comes to pedagogy and how students can engage in the classroom. That's something that I wanted to emphasize. And I think apart from that, I would say the assignments, I mentioned election reports. Some of the other assignments that we can do in a classroom is that we do podcasts. So every assignment needn't be a long essay of 8,000 words. What we can also do is talk about issues across the world in the form of a podcast. So that is, you can interview anyone, an expert that you came in contact with, which you found, whom you found interesting. And that you can have a conversation with that person, and that can become your assignment. And that also sort of trains you into what I would say a lot of the modern media forms. Everything is not always in the written format. It's also in the video format. It's also in the audio format. So our assignments are also sort of designed to do that. Another way, sort of something I've done in my South Asia course, is we have book review assignments. And these are not book reviews of nonfiction. These are book reviews of fiction. So what I've done is, as part of the assignment, I gave the option to do maybe like 10 fictional books, which exclusively deals with the theme of politics in South Asia. So classic works from Premchand to Bhishma Sani to modern day Booker Prize winning works. How do you identify the politics in that fiction? So this also allows you to think from the point of view of literature. Can you identify that in the real world? So all of this allows you to think in multiple ways. And this is there in several of your elective courses, several of your core courses as well. With that, I think I'll just stop babbling and I'll hand it over to Professor Panigrahi. Thank you.
Okay, good evening, everyone. And my name is Manoj Kumar Panigrahi. I was there on one point of my life. I still remember listening to Dane's speech, and so do Vice Chancellor's speech during the commencement lectures and all. What I will do is I'll not speak much of academic because I'll give you a brief idea of what was my life in general as a student. At first I was scared when I first came here because it's a very different environment from where I am from. And yes, but over the years that I was there here, the level of support that I got from the faculty and my seniors. I was enrolled in MA DLB program back in 2014. 2014 to 16 was my batch. So from there to now, there's a big changes that has happened. As a school, JSIA has expanded a lot. The number of courses that has been on offer to the students has changed. The number of programs have also increased. And also one thing that I realized throughout my time as a master student here in MA DLB program is the first thing first is how easily I can reach out to a faculty if I have a doubt. So there's an open source, it's an email on Outlook that we use. Just write an email, set a time, and faculties are more than happy to, let's say, discuss whatever challenges you may face. Maybe, let's say, as a person, as a student at that time, I was struggling with my essays. I used to have a very hard time. And I still remember my first presentation happened in Jindal in this sort of classroom. And I was shivering like anything on that day. But at that time, during those class, the support, especially mental support that my classmates provided or my faculties, and that was very helpful. And at the same time, I also planned to I realized that I should go for an exchange. This is what I also really like Jindal, that they have a really long list of exchange universities around the world. I was interested in East Asia as such, so I chose to go to Taiwan for my exchange program during my master's. And I realized many said that, hey, it's a country where everyone speaks Chinese and you will have a lot of trouble. And I say, I'll see once I reach there. And I realized I did a mistake the moment I landed there. So, but again, that experience, although now I enjoyed it and I applied for my PhD back there again, I stayed there for 5.5, 6 years, and it was a very different experience. So, as I said, like the number of schools that you get for exchange programs. Like say you are speaking Spanish, you are interested in learning Spanish language. We have MOUs with countries in Spain, of course, universities in Spain, and so do in Latin America. So we have faculties from those region as well. So you pick any part of the world, we have the faculties and area expertise. I'm talking from an IR perspective, international relation perspective. We do have those things. Another thing that have changed over the years is to have a faculty mentor, faculty as a mentor to the students. So there are a group of students who are assigned to a faculty, and this as a mentee, and they can reach out to this assigned faculty as a mentor to reach out. Maybe as this is a residential area, there may be some challenges coming up, and there may be some pressure from the academics, pressure from, let's say, some issues in the dormitories or something. So this so the student can reach out to the faculty easily, and we do have like a monthly discussion with those mentee students that I personally do to the students to check with them, like, is everything okay or not? That kind of support that we are more than happy to do, and that this is a very good thing that has come up recently, and I think this is a very good initiative. And also, as a faculty right now, I would say I'm the co-director of Center for Northeast Asia Studies. As Dean and Ambassador Thapar has just mentioned about world challenges, time has changed, right? So, for example, let's take the case of Ukraine, Russia, the crisis that's been happening. So, as a Northeast Asian, I still consider myself a student of this area. What I would see, so what we have done in the center is we have also letting Dean know right now, we didn't plan to do now. We have come up with a book that is under review right now and is going to get published. Myself, my co-director, and the PhD students and some of the master students. So we also encourage this kind of academic collaborations with the students, where we guide them through writing the book chapters, or let's say in some of my course that I offer about Northeast Asia and also the cross-strait relations between China and Taiwan, I ask students, instead of reports, if you want to make it, if you publish it on any online think tank or any online websites, for example, Diplomat, or let's say Diplomat is the different platforms, you don't have to write a report for the class. That itself, the publication itself is considered as a report for your class. So, and also another part that I personally do is to divide students in the class based on countries. Let's say this week, the topic is about US-China trade war. So I kind of divide according to the size of the class that, okay, this group of students, you have to support the Chinese side, the other side have to support the US side. So that creates that debate environment in the class and help us everyone to grow as a faculty, myself, and also as a students as such. So these are some of the initiatives that we are trying to do, and I will not take much of your time, and we can come over for the discussions. And of course, we are here to have any questions from your side. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Manoj. I will sure like to congratulate him for his journey from being one among you and sharing stage with Dean and Ambassador Thapar in such short time. So this is what our students aspire for, and this is what the journey which General School of International Affairs commits and promise to our students and their parents. And so these were some very specific General School of International Affairs discussions and topics we discussed. So a brief overall journey of General Global University. We are now 9,000 plus students, and since we are a fully residential university, so almost 99% of these 9,000 figure are students who will stay on campus. The gender ratio is 49 to 51%. So 49 is for female, 51 is for the male. We are more than 1,000 faculties who are coming from 100 different countries, including India. And the countries are from USA to UK to Afghanistan to China to Ukraine to Russia. And these are the rich cultural backgrounds our faculty and educators are coming from. And we are among the top 700 universities globally, as per the QS latest ranking. We are the #1 private university in the country. We are the #1 law school in the country, and among the top 150 young university globally. These are some of the latest QS ranking, which was released just a couple of weeks back. And QS ranking is widely accepted and very reputed ranking system for universities across the world. So now the forum is open for question and answers. So I'll request the team to help parents and students reach out to the mics, and if we have someone from the AV team. So please come up with your questions, anything which you have related to academic, non-academic, anything. We would certainly like to together answer these questions.
Yeah, you could use the mics in front of you, please. They're not. So then you want to.
Thank you so much for this enlightening program. Really, I actually walked into this auditorium a different person. I'm going to walk out a different person. So thank you so much, all of you, for sharing your experience. I wanted to get some more enlightenment on the internship programs and the international collaborations, or the 4-year degree program. If you can help us with that, the dual degree program.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. Actually, our career staff are not here, but I believe they have been talking to students, including your ward, about internships and careers. We have a dedicated unit of 3 persons working exclusively on our school's students with regard to their professional development. So the Office of Career Services primarily leads it, but also we have a faculty member who is the Associate Dean for Careers who guides them. So it's a complete dedicated set of professionals enabling our students to get internships and final placements. I can tell you, I mean, I've studied in possibly the best places on earth in terms of reputation. None of them did anything like this for me. I had to carve out everything on my own. You know, for them, it's just a reputation. You know, we are 200 years old or 800 years old, and we are legendary, and it's a privilege that we are granting you this education. That was all. So yeah, please.
So what I meant, I did not mean how the program worked. I actually meant I wanted to your thought process on how you incorporated the internships and the dual degree program from a child's development standpoint. That's what I meant. I wanted your perspective on that.
Sure. So I'm just laying the groundwork to respond to you in a more elaborate way. So here, the way it works is between every semester, essentially there is a break, right? There's a winter semester and winter break and a summer break. 15-20th December until end January. That's a smaller break. And then there's a longer one in the summer, the whole of June. And right now, for example, the reason there are no students is they've all gone for internships or for final placements. So what we do is several months ahead of time, at least I would say like by October for December and by April for June. What happens is that the Office of Career Services and the Associate Dean for Careers work with individual students to try and gauge her or his interests and focus areas. Now, first year undergraduate, maybe they're not even sure what exactly is their focus area. So generally for them, we just make sure they get a preliminary exposure to an organization. It could be a diplomatic mission. It could be a large international organization. It could be an NGO. It could be a research, a think tank. It could be a media house. So a variety of them. And what happens is they do a kind of a mapping based on interests. And then on that basis, they try to match them to institutions with whom we have long-standing relationships. So internships generally are easier to get simply because they are just like, to add experience. And we guarantee internships to each and every student. In fact, it is mandatory now. We have, earlier, it used to be that only the summer internships were mandatory and they were not being credited, and now they have been brought back into the curriculum. So actually you get credits for it. It counts towards, I think it's 6 credits if I'm not wrong. I'm a little out of touch, but I don't know if the OCS, anyone from OCS is not here. But anyway, the point is it's equivalent to 2 taught courses as far as I remember. Am I right, Rohit? Yeah, it's equivalent to 2 taught courses. So a typical taught course is 3 credits, or sometimes 4 credits, but internship is 6. So, and then what happens is you get a grade on it, and it counts towards your GPA. Now we have made it for credit again. Earlier it used to be, then for a while it was discontinued. So the way it works is the employers or the organization actually assesses the students' contributions at the end and sends a confidential report to us about how she or he performed. And on that basis, she gets a grade. So it's incentivized to make sure students take it seriously. And sometimes students go back to the same organization in the following summer or the following winter to continue building their skills in the same area. Sometimes they change because maybe I've seen many examples of students who start off saying, maybe I'm interested in Africa and South-South cooperation, but they end up writing a dissertation on something totally unrelated, maybe democracy and dictatorship in the Middle East. I mean, chalk and cheese. But the point is, students' minds also evolve. As they read more, as they absorb more, it's possible that you may come in thinking, I want to join the foreign service, but then in 3 years or 2 years, you're probably looking at other opportunities. So students, we advise them to be flexible. Sometimes students are very rigid in the sense, they say, I'm only interested in human rights, and this is my core interest, or I'm only interested in counterterrorism, and find me a job in counterterrorism. And we can't, right? I mean, what I'm trying to say is some degree of versatility and broader set of interests always help in our field. You can't really specialize in only one thing. But in general, we have not put square pegs in round holes. In general, there is a pretty good match between student interest and what the student finally ends up doing. I've rarely seen someone who's by default or by due to lack of options ending up doing something she doesn't like. So, but of course, like I said, there is a institutional limitation. Also, our reputation is at stake. I mean, sometimes I advise students about career. You can't do like a window shopping. You can't say, I'll go for an interview when we have set up the interview for the student with an external employer or internship. And then when you're offered the position, you say, no, I don't want it. I've got some other thing. So that puts us in a tight spot because our reputation is at stake with the employer, right? So there is a kind of a whole code of conduct with relation to how our career services can support students. But over years, I mean, the last 2 years are very hard because the collapse of the economy and the complete global downturn due to the pandemic. But those of you who are entering now, I think should be more comfortably placed relatively. I mean, we have more problems, like I said in my remarks, and more crises, but therefore the need for more analysts and writers and thinkers about crises and problems, so for mitigation. So to that extent, it's good. I think this year the projections were actually, if you remember, at the beginning of the year for Indian economy, it was more than 9%. And now the supply chain disruptions and the inflationary shocks caused by the war that started in February has led to downgrades of everyone, including of the global economy itself. So there is looking like a slowdown, but it should be, I mean, on average, we do expect 6 or more percent for this whole decade and going forward. In fact, the brokerage firm Jefferies is saying that India is now poised at the same position it was in 2003. Some of you may remember, older people in the audience, That was the beginning of sustained high growth for the Indian economy, 8% until 2003 to 8. And then the global economic crisis came and brought down everything. So we do have, I think, dedicated people for careers. And like I said, it's actually unprecedented because these areas have not been explored by others. So we have created virtually this whole ecosystem of jobs and internships for students which were non-existent in the past. The view was, the traditional view was, you take up this thing at the master's level and then maybe give it a shot at the UPSC exams. That was it. Or get a PhD and become a lecturer somewhere. That was it. But now you look at our alumni, there are a number of videos that we have done with our alumni. Have you all watched them? Can I have a show of hands of those who have watched? There are some 10 or 11 videos where I and the dean of our admissions and number of our colleagues are talking to our own alumni. And you will see what all they're doing. And of course, if you visit the careers page also, it shows the variety of fields into which our students are getting absorbed. So every year, like I said, this is a happy news time, May, June, and July. More and more of them report to us that they have just gotten into very rewarding careers. So that pathway is open to all of you as well. And yeah, Ambassador Thapa is asking me to speak about the dual degrees. So we'll take the study abroad questions because this one was about careers. Yeah, you also wanted to know about that. Yeah, thank you. So yeah, these are all publicly available. We have. Do you know the difference between study abroad and dual degree? First of all, well, to make it simple, study abroad is simply like a semester or even shorter duration. So you don't get a degree from the host institution. Your degree remains only the general degree. But the credits that you earn in the foreign university are transferred back to us. So instead of doing our electives for a semester, you're doing their electives. And we've tried to find an equivalence because sometimes the credit structure is not exactly the same. What we call 3 credits, they may call 5 or 4 or vice versa. But we make a calculation. We have 2 dedicated assistant deans for international collaborations who work with individual students and help them find institutions where they can do the semester abroad. That's a shorter term thing, and they come back after the semester. Right? And they only get 1 degree, but on the transcript it mentions that these courses were earned from such and such international partner university. That's the low-hanging, easy thing. The more advanced one is what we call dual degree. And dual degree, we have a number of options in a variety of fields, both at the master's and undergraduate. At bachelor's, we call it 2+2, which means you only do 2 years with us, and in year 3 and year 4, yeah. So thank you. So we have dual degrees right now with University of Birmingham, University of Leeds, Geneva School of Diplomacy, Queen Mary. Actually, most of these are in Europe. There was also one at Warsaw, but I don't see it here in Poland. And then many more which are being negotiated. You'll have to speak to our assistant deans for international collaborations for details. But the study abroad options are actually numerous. These are the dual degrees, but individual semester abroad, you have many, many more. And depending on your interests, if you are saying, let's say you say, I'm interested in South Asian regional integration, let's say, you could go to Tribhuvan University in Kathmandu, which is Kathmandu is the headquarters of SAARC, and do it there. Do a series of courses there. If, let's say you're interested in Latin American politics and regional affairs, you could go to Valparaiso in Chile or FGV in Brazil and do it. We have had students who have gone all the way. And of course, that is linked to your language choices also. If you're doing Spanish, Latin America comes up as a obvious destination for further studies. or exchange or study abroad. If you're interested in thematic issues, let's say you say, I'm interested in nuclear proliferation. You keep hearing what Kim Jong-un is planning every day, right? How many missile tests he has already launched this year, and by the way, they're preparing for a 7th nuclear test. It's coming. It's imminent, and it's probably going to, at least for some time, divert the world from the war in Ukraine. So you want to specialize in non-proliferation, nuclear non-proliferation studies, you'd go to an institution in the Western world. Let's say the Bush School in Texas. There are institutions that actually specialize in this area, where we would try to send you for a semester abroad. The dual degrees are more like in the dual degree is different. Dual degree, after 2 years, you actually go for 2 years and you don't do your final year here with us. And you carry back the credits to us. You will all get an orientation about these when you join, about how the process works. And not everybody is nominated for dual degree. So that's a 2+2. 1+1 is for master students. Instead of doing both years with us, they only do 1 year with us, and then they do the second year with a partner institution abroad. And in this case, you actually have to pay tuition to the host institution, because they are giving you a degree and admitting you at a higher level. So for example, if you're doing the 2+2 undergraduate dual degree, you'll at the end of 4 years, you get the Jindal degree and also that of the, let's say, the Geneva School of Diplomacy, which is of course in the heart, the UN system, everything is there in Geneva, in Switzerland. So how does it work? At the end of 4 years, you get both the Jindal bachelors and the Geneva bachelors. They are admitting you into their 3rd year directly. That's because we have an agreement with them and they have seen the coursework you have already done with us. So they are waiving some of their degree requirements. We are waiving some of our degree requirements. And as a result, you get 2 degrees at the end of 4 years. Or if in the case of masters, you get 2 degrees at the end of 2 years, 1+1. So these opportunities over the years have been popular with students. Of course, the dual degree costs a lot more simply because you have to pay the tuition of the host institution also. And that can be like 5, 6, or even 7 or 8 times more than our tuition. So it's an option, and students do take these up. And we have semester abroad is, like I said, is easier. There's no tuition involved. You just bear the cost of your airfare and your living expenses there. The host institution does not charge you tuition for attending their classes and for taking their exams and getting their transcript. That's a privilege of being a Jindal student. So then we also have summer schools. Summer schools are very short. They happen for over 2 to 3 weeks only. And we have prestigious organizations like Maxwell School, my alma mater in Syracuse. We have Fletcher School in Tufts in Boston, and we have Oxford. These are the ones who over the years offered our students summer schools. Summer schools are short, customized courses in a variety of subjects, and you get credits for them too. But it happens over just 2 to 3 weeks. And again, there's a fee charged for the privilege of going to an Oxford or a Fletcher or a Maxwell. So those things are there. Jindal is famous for internationalization and for study abroad opportunities. So there are lots of them. And what I found is, I know there's a trend, especially among the upper class Indians in big cities, in metros, to send children for undergraduate degrees right after 12th grade overseas, right? Those who can afford it. People paying, I don't know, crores of rupees for 4-year or 3-year undergraduate degrees abroad. But on the other hand, here is a value proposition. You actually study with us, and your kids, especially after high school, probably the parents want them around in India for at least 1 or 2 more years before they can go overseas. So do this and then opt for the dual degree program. And that, in a way, fulfills the need for an overseas degree and also helps you keep your kids around for a little longer. I mean, think about it. There's a difference between sending them at 16 or 17 and at 19 or 20, right? I mean, It's I know there is this trend going around. Some of the elite schools actually boast of how almost all their graduating batch students have gone abroad right after class 12. But the traditional view has been that they should do their undergraduate here at home and then think of other things. So that's, I am still a votary of the old school method, because when you talk to young people who have gone abroad right after high school, right after 12th, they probably become very detached from India. And for them, they would never return, one, and it's a pathway to immigration, and two, detached in the sense also not able to connect with India anymore, because this is a formative stage of your life, your late teens, 16, 17, if you're going overseas and studying there. And then India just becomes a kind of like a, footnote. You just happen to be born there or grew up there. So in terms of an emotional link to the motherland, you lose that, especially if you go for undergraduate. That's my impression of many people who've done this. I myself, most of us went overseas after the basic bachelor's degree, not before that. So, but the dual degree is there. I mean, that's a different option. And like I said, it's a difference between 17 and 19 or 16 and 18. Yeah, so there is a whole selection procedure for this. Not everybody who has the means to pay for a dual degree can go. You have to have a certain high grade point average, CGPA. You have to have no disciplinary, ticks against you for any misconduct during your stay here. And three, there shouldn't be any behavioral problems, simply because we can't, again, our reputation with the partner universities is at stake. We can't have a student that goes from here and then goes off rail in the foreign university there, because that will be a huge liability for us. So there are criteria, there's a selection process, and you have to apply, you have to justify why you should be nominated for the dual degree. Or semester abroad is simpler, but for dual degree, there's a lot more screening and pre-screening. I would say 5 to 10% of our students opt for the study abroad every year in some form or the other. Summer school, dual degree, or semester abroad. We will explain all these in detail. Our assistant deans will be here during the orientation. When you come end July, before the start of the academic year, you will get a full briefing on the study abroad opportunities and also careers. Yeah, more questions, please. Oh, mic de dijiye unko. Okay, so go ahead. We'll come to you. Huh?
Yeah, thanks. It was quite insightful. If you could just give a little more on this internship. So there are 6 points, 2 in the first, 2 in the second, and 2 in the third.
No, so there is no internship in your final semester because you are about to graduate. So there's no internship in the summer of your final year. So it's actually 5 for an undergraduate and probably 3 for a master's student. There's no internship in the last summer because you're about to graduate and you're actually looking at either higher studies if you're a bachelor student or a final placement if you're a master's student, right? So you don't need an internship in your final semester.
Okay, so how does this work? I mean, you will have to go, one has to go and scout for the internship for, let's say, I'm talking about Pol Science honors, which is in semester 1, semester 2, and semester 3. So, or will the university help the student?
Yeah. So again, Harsh, I think we have to repeat the OCS orientation for all newly inducted students. But to briefly recap, like I said, we identify students' interests. Now, if a student says, I'm interested in political consultancies and I want to be the next Prashant Kishore of India, okay? I don't mean running for election. Probably he'll fail there, but I mean the psephology and the strategy to win elections. Now, a lot of members of parliament and polling institutions want young people who can actually intern for them and offer research and understand field dynamics. So we have a system where we engage with them and send our students to them, and they engage. They are fully occupied over the summers and some even in the winters, doing these kind of internships. I mean, ultimately, I find every member of parliament, I do a show on Doordarshan, right? Indian diplomacy. You have seen it. Now, whenever I bring a member of parliament on the show, I find that there are very bright young people in their early 20s who are working for them, doing this media outreach and engagement and strategy and for winning elections and for understanding local dynamics and offering advice, political consultants. Now, these have all come through either mass communication background or political science backgrounds. So our students are eligible. Actually, we haven't graduated a political science batch yet. This year, 2022 is our first lot, because political science honors was started only in 2019. So it's quite clear that some of them will go into this field. So we will find internships to work with parliamentarians, to work with polling agencies, to work with political consultancies like IPAC, for example, or the PRS, the Parliamentary Research Service. There are lots of such excellent institutions that look for students who are well trained. Even media houses, a lot of media houses need good writers of content for their online with their websites, and also for the live reporting of situations on a daily basis. So political science students are the number one priority for them, simply because politics is the number one subject for news on a daily basis, especially for the electronic and the online media. So those kinds of things we find for the students. So you don't have to go looking around for it. You just tell us your interests, and the career services will find the organization, will set up the interview, and you go do the internship there. And that's how it works. And of course, we would want to project our best students to these organizations, because our reputation is at stake institutionally. So therefore, there is going to be if you failed courses, God forbid, none of you ever have to face the situation. If you wasted your time, got into bad habits, failed courses here, let's say, we will not be able to help you with internships or with placements, simply because the record speaks for itself, right? Your transcript has a negative indicator on it, so which can never be scrubbed. So that's why I tell students to never, waste a moment or waste your lives while you're here. Make the most of this place, but the fun and enjoyment has to be last. This is a serious institution, and I am telling every bachelor student here who's coming to the bachelor's degree, you have to do at least 2 to 3 hours of reading over and above your classes every day. Over and above classes, beyond, on your own or in groups. If you're a master student, generally master students don't need this kind of advice from me. At least 4 to 5 hours minimum of reading, over and above classes, as in lectures. So if you're good, if you've done your due diligence, then internship, even final placement is not a big issue, because the training is good. What we don't do is we never guarantee a job. This I want to categorically say at the outset. This is an educational institution. We are all professors here. We have a career services, but it's only to enable and to link you up. At most, what they can do is set up a job interview before you graduate. The rest depends on your abilities and how well you're able to articulate your abilities. So we are not here into claiming this 100% placements and such things. Last 2 years were difficult because of the pandemic and, like I said, the collapse of the economy, not just in India, but worldwide. So we don't guarantee jobs. We are not an employment type of an institution here or an agency here. What we are doing is highest quality of education, and of course the linkages and the opportunity. We do guarantee an internship for every student, and that is our responsibility. And by the way, it's not a big deal to find a position that is rewarding at the end, because if you have consistently taken the right type of electives, developed a specialization in a certain subfield or sub area within your discipline, there are endless opportunities. Not like that the old cliche of either you have UPSC or you become a lecturer. Now there are probably like 15 or 20 other avenues that have opened up. I mean, look at the diplomatic missions, the way they continue to take our students. Just 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, the ambassador of Israel was here. 4 weeks ago, before the semester ended. And he was accompanied by 2 of our own alumni who are now working full-time in the Embassy of Israel as research analysts and as in the trade office, promoting commerce between Israel and India. So these are just, I'm just throwing around a few samples. Careers that were unheard of, unthinkable in the past are becoming a reality. And it's because this kind of professional school of international affairs did not exist before. So now we are able to create those opportunities. So rest assured about internships, sir, don't worry. And we will do this systematically for each student, starting with the first winter, which is this December and January 2022-23. It's going to be a first internship.
So, sir, my question is from Mr. Thapar. Sir, have you ever faced any diplomacy crisis or a situation in which a country faced an annexation and you had to pull out all the Indian nationals from there, and you would like to share an experience like that?
I have not handled that, but I have distinguished colleagues. I mean, there was the war which broke out, in Iraq, for example. Then there was, we've handled it from time to time. We set up control rooms. There was the problem when we had the Arab Spring, Libya, those kind of issues. And sometimes because of pandemics, also, we've had people. And then most recently, we had the massive, evacuation of students from Ukraine. So the normal thing is that we set up a special group of people, and we set up a control room on a 24/7 basis. And then that is in touch with the stakeholders in India and abroad, all the agencies, including the Air Force, if it is required, maybe the doctors, Ministry of Health, if it is required, the Indian Embassy, if it is required, sometimes the Indian Association also in that particular area, in the foreign mission, and the neighboring Indian missions. Of course, we also sometimes do it for other nationals too. We've done it for Bangladesh, we've done it for some other countries too. So we have quite a good, shall we say, expertise in that. Yeah.
Sir, what do you think that the government can do better for having ties with Afghanistan? Because Taliban taking over and India just sending humanitarian aid in form of wheat, I don't think that's enough. So, sir, what do you think that the government can do to better the ties with Afghanistan?
You see, we are taking a principled and calibrated response in most global issues. We just don't walk into things so easily. We look at the historical perspective, look at the Russia-Ukraine war. We've looked at the complete perspective, how the former Soviet Union, Russians, etc., have stood ground with us every time there was a veto in the UN or other crisis. Similarly, on Taliban, we have had this position that there is no good terrorist or bad terrorist. Terrorism is terrorism. So we've not really had any formal ties with them. But yes, because the position was changing rapidly, the coalition forces led by the US was withdrawing, and we do have very strong cultural, trade, business and strategic interests in Afghanistan. We can't just let it go, because if we do let it go, the neighbors will take over. And, it's also a buffer for containing the influence of other countries in the neighborhood. So all these things considered, we did make overtures, and some of my younger colleagues, the joint secretaries from, that is another thing, but I'm just saying, even 2-3 years ago, we had started making initial contact with them in Doha. because they had a representative office in Doha. And this was not reported too much in the press, but the Joint Secretary from the Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran division, etc., they were already started. We were starting that little dialogue, and through the good offices of the Doha government, etc. So we had started that process, feeling them out, because we've had, our position is very open. If you look at our stance, even on Myanmar, we are one of the few countries we have been dealing with generals, the army juntas. We don't give up. For us, every country is important. For us, even the Pakistani government has been important. Honorable Prime Minister tried to speak to Nawaz Sharif on a surprise visit when he came in from, Kabul. So we'd like to enter into dialogue, and therefore the Taliban is no exception, but we will proceed cautiously. Humanitarian relief is basic human decency. I mean, it's always respected. At the end of the day, it's existential. If you help someone in need, whatever be your political ideology, it will be appreciated. And I think the Taliban, so what we're trying to do is contain. We're trying to reach out to them in a positive manner, rather than, threaten them with our policing and power display, etc. I think the message of love, the message of humanism is more important. So that's what we're trying. Now, to what extent this will go, we don't know, because there are other issues. The Pakistani Foreign Office, the military, the ISI, they have certain ties with them, which and the frequency they operate on, we don't operate on those frequencies. Ours is a more principled, structured interface. So if you think that we will replicate the Pakistani operating system, we will not do that. That's not our style. So we will certainly operate on the basis of principles, and we will not let it go too. We don't want them to walk, China or Pakistan to just walk over into this very, very important nation. We are watching our interests. We're also concerned about, about terrorism. We don't want Afghanistan to become again, it has been, giving shelter to Al-Qaeda and the ISIS, etc. We don't want it to go that way. So what we're doing is taking a very, very principled and that kind of approach. Now, where it all fructifies, yeah, please.
Sorry. I just wanted to add that just the physical security of our personnel is also a big concern, because in the past, the current interior minister, the one who is in charge of the whole country, is from the Haqqani network. They were involved in direct killings of Indian citizens, including our diplomats, our defense attaché, and abductions of our engineers and all that, right? So we are looking for some guarantees. We cannot go back. Right now, unfortunately, we don't even have a presence on the ground. Our projects, what happens to our projects? We have so many projects there for which we have the skilled manpower and the managerial expertise. Taliban have nothing. They know nothing. So to run a state. So in that kind of situation, our delegation went recently and we're trying, but you see what happened today, right? There's a attack on a Gurudwara, Karte Parwan, in Kabul itself. So the problem is these elements make it very, very risky. So it's going to be a slow process, I think. Frankly, if you see 1996 to 2001, the last time there was Taliban rule, 3 countries recognized them officially: Saudi, UAE, and Pakistan. This time, not even these 3 are daring to recognize them. So what does it mean? There's a certain, they're beyond the pale. The treatment of women, I don't even have to mention. Minorities and women is just outrageous. And then there is a terrorism problem. That makes them really untouchable for many. But of course, for the geopolitical interests Ambassador Thapar is talking about, we would need to have some presence. And that's what we're trying to find out, if they can guarantee, and if we can come back and at least open the embassy or something like that. Because there are countries that are not recognizing them at all, but have got their missions open there. So people often confuse the two. They think that if you have an embassy there, it means you recognize that country. Actually, no. A number of countries have kept their missions open in Kabul, despite this enormous turmoil, but none of them is officially recognizing Taliban representative as the official representative at the United Nations. In fact, there's a whole UN credentials committee that looks at claims and counterclaims of who represents a certain country. Right now, Myanmar and Ambassador Thapar is talking about Myanmar and Afghanistan, the current regimes, the military there and the Taliban here have proposed their own candidates saying that these are the real representatives of our countries. But the credentials committee has not recognized them yet. And so right now it's in a limbo. There is a Myanmar spokesperson or an ambassador from the former regime who's still there in Geneva and who's still there in New York. And there is also Afghan ambassador and permanent representative from the former regime who's still there. But the governments who have the de facto control, but don't have the de jure recognition, they're saying that these are illegitimate and we are going to replace them with our own persons. But the credentials committee has not come to consensus. There is neither Security Council nor General Assembly, there's any acceptance of these regimes right now. So it will be a long haul, but we'll see. Definitely the fall of Kabul was a setback for us. We have lost presence on the ground, we have lost influence, but how to stage a comeback, frankly, there are no easy answers. We have plenty of time to discuss this. I mean, this is what goes on in our classrooms every day, but it's good that you're keeping your eye on the ball. Please.
So, any more questions coming in, please? Please help them with the mic. Okay, it's there.
Hi, I can see quite a few research center in the JSIA. So if you can enlighten a little bit about that and the opportunities for students there.
So, ma'am, so we have like about 12 to 13 research centers, and this is obviously led by faculties, and we do conduct research on those. Recently with Professor Rohit Jyotish and Professor Somdas, they did a workshop on research analytics and using statistics for the students, and there are like about 41 students who enrolled for that. So on that basis, it's more like a skill development things that happen. And right now, as I mentioned when I was speaking, we are coming up with a book for with the students as well. So these are some of the things that will train the students as well as it will also push them up for the employability that they during the students' period itself, that they have published, let's say 4 or 5 articles, or they have contributed for a book chapter. So these are some of, and also as a faculty, we also sometimes if we see some opportunities in some organizations, we do share with the students where they can get things. No, so there is a usually call for members. Okay, so we send out an email saying that, okay, like in the first week of August, we'll send out an email saying, yes, okay. So, so we do have Center for Security Studies, Border Studies, European Studies, South Asia, Afghanistan, Israel Studies, Global South, Middle East, Analytical Research, Northeast Asia that I'm representing from, Latin America. So more or less, so we send out a call for members to the students. Those who are interested, they send their CV or the writing samples, and on that basis, we do have a one-on-one interview, and then we choose them up.
One thing I want to add, the centers, they meet regularly, they have study groups, they of course publish. It's a kind of an internship, a continuing research internship throughout your time here. It's just not officially called an internship. And I find that through the centers, people find amazing careers. These 2 girls I was talking about who are now with the Israeli embassy happened to be there because they were very actively involved in our Center for Israel Studies. And that's how they made the contacts. That's how they built up the capital with the diplomats. And that's how they got hired at the end when they graduated. So the research centers often open up extraordinary careers. because faculty members know a lot of institutions and people. And when they write references for students, it makes a difference. So the first semester, the beginning of the first semester, you will get an orientation on all the research centers. You'll be asked to enroll, join some of them. And it's an additional thing over and above your coursework that stays with you throughout. And I've known some students who are very enthusiastic participants in research centers, and both bachelors and masters, and who as a result have become, much more versatile than the ones who simply are getting the bookish knowledge from classroom learning only. So research centers, from a student point of view, I would call them like a additional learning mediums over and above the basic curriculum. And it takes you to a more advanced level because you're working with PhD scholars and you're working with faculty, you're publishing, as Professor Panigrahi was mentioning. So all those take you to we have bachelor students who are already writing book chapters and journal articles and publishing them before they graduate. This is unthinkable in the history of our field. These are all done at the master's or at the PhD level or MPhil level. So it's just that the quality of learning in different centers, and the centers, like he read out, some are thematic, some are geographic. So it depends on your interests. So students will be asked to approach faculty and to attend the first meeting where there's a general call for interest, and then you start forming a group of interested young researchers. So this is all kind of like I said, an apprenticeship or a training for higher level scholarship. It starts with the research center.
अगले जो प्रश्न है सिर्फ स्टूडेंट्स को अलाउड है, पेरेंट्स नहीं बोलेंगे, because we want the students to come out. The shyness must go, and we really respect and appreciate the opportunity to interact with students. So students, go ahead. Good for you.
Hi. Okay. Sure.
After she speaks, yeah.
Okay, so when I went through the prospectus of the masters in DLB, so there was the language portion. So I have a question regarding that, because since I have no history regarding any of the 4 languages. So for the criteria of the eligibility for the levels, so the teaching, will it start at a basic level, or do we need some prerequisite knowledge?
Yeah, don't worry about it. It's like a 101. You start in the first semester. You don't need to have done a non-English foreign language before coming here. So, but your choice of the language should be linked to the region of the world that you are interested in. That is something you need to think through. Generally, people tend to have 2 criteria. One is this, and the other is the level of easiness. Some of them are of the view that Spanish is the easiest to learn and we get the highest marks, so we will all enroll in Spanish. I would say no. If you're interested in, let's say, energy or terrorism and Middle East, you must do Arabic or Hebrew. Now we are starting Hebrew as well. If you, we also have Dari, which is like almost the same as Farsi, as Persian. So these are the 3 kind of Middle Eastern languages. If you're interested in East Asia and in the rise of China and all, Mandarin is a must. If you're interested in Latin America, then yes, Spanish, and Europe to an extent. And of course, French. The thing is, it's one of the 2 official UN languages, which is used in UN. So if you're aiming at a UN career, then French is good to learn. Although I must say that the influence of French is waning and declining. Only a part of West Africa and France use it any longer. So you have to choose your language based on your geographical orientation, no? And also take courses in more electives in that region and specializing in that region. So that is an advice we give at the time when you join. But for now, you don't need to be anxious about it. You just need to be sure about what are the options. You can only do 1 language. Sometimes I have students coming and saying, I'm really skilled at this and I've got some special abilities. Can I take 2 languages? And no, it's not allowed. And simply because we want you to be like a master in 1, not jack of all trades. So it's very important that you choose the language judiciously and based on your core inclinations and interests and career aspirations.
Thank you.
Please. Girl student here.
Okay. Good evening, sir. Good evening, everyone. I have two multifold questions. First would be for Dr. Manoj, sir. So, sir, even I plan to go for the same pattern that you did, further like a study abroad program, and afterwards going for a PhD program. So, so you used one university at the common places of both. So, did it help you while you were applying over there for PhD, since you have already been there for one program?
I would say no, because you have to apply again and you have to go through the process of selections. It's a different department itself. So if you're going as an exchange student, their international office will vet you out. But if you're going for another program, like a full-on program, so there will be the department itself will vet you, like let's say some professors and at the same time, if you are applying for scholarship, you have to apply parallelly beside your things. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, sir. My second question would be regarding the scholarship that is to be awarded for this particular program. So would this particular scholarship that is being awarded to us, is it only for the first semester or for all, or it would be like alternative, like first we have certain SGPA for the first semester, then another SGPA for the second semester? How would it be managed?
Yeah, you're coming into the masters.
Yeah, MAD.
Good. Where have you done your bachelor's?
University of Delhi History Honors in my mind.
Good. So it's a natural segue for you. On the scholarship, the way it works, it's for the whole year. So it's awarded at the beginning of a year, and it's broken into two semester bills. So it defrays some of the tuition expenses for first semester and second semester. And then for it to be retained, you have to have a certain CGPA. There's a policy. You have to maintain a certain, or if you shouldn't have failed courses and fallen below a certain threshold. If you do, then actually the scholarship is withdrawn in the year 2. But if you actually do even better, there's a possibility of you getting 1 or 2 advanced merit scholarships in the following year. So at the time of admission, the scholarship is based on merit cum means, like parental income plus your interview performance, your entrance exam scores, all those things. But after you're in the system, it depends purely on merit, in the sense how well you're doing in year 1. That will determine your scholarship continuation or increase, or even withdrawal of scholarship, depending on how well or how badly you do in year 1. So that's the system. And in general, I would say 65-70% of our students tend to be on scholarships, some form or the other.
Yes, some form of the other. And that speaks volume about the quality of students coming to us. It's not about boosting that, yes, 70% of the students get scholarship, but yes, they get scholarship because they come from that background and the merit is there with them. But yes, to add, there's always riders to scholarship, because a scholarship award is subject to not only maintaining the academic performances, it is also maintaining the, there should be no any complaints or any misconduct, because if those things happen, the scholarship can be withdrawn even in the first semester. So those things are important.
So sir, hypothetically speaking, if someone did not clear in the first year, so can they like reapply in the second year?
Yeah, if you're a topper, yes. If you're coming in without a scholarship for whatever reason, but your CGPA is among the top 3 or top 4 or top 5, you could actually earn a scholarship in year 2. Very much so. So like I said, everything depends on your performance in the first 2 semesters. And that will, have an automatic positive knock-on effects going forward.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Please.
Hi, I just had a question regarding how would students go about the teaching assistantships, like how for the role of a TA, or if you have RAs, I'm not aware. But how
Yeah, thank you. Look, right now, the scholarship awardees, the ones who are given scholarships, are expected to assist research centers. That's a norm. But it's not like the same as being a teaching assistant. Teaching assistant has to already have a master's degree in our setup, and same with the research assistant. So these are people actually who are full-time employees. They're not students. So we don't call the students who are on scholarships as TAs or RAs. So we actually hire a separate set of people who dedicatedly only do this. So, but while you're studying on the side, you're expected to assist research centers with publications, with events, with conferences, with seminars, with public lectures, those kind of things. Students are involved under centers. And that's part of the agreement of winning a scholarship. A merit-based scholarship also entails some duties and responsibilities. It's not simply like something you've earned and which you can just use up. Rather, it's something that you continuously earn by giving back to the institution. That's the kind of model here. We don't call them TAs and RAs, but effectively, so TAs and RAs have to do many things. For example, they assist faculty in the classrooms. The norm is a teaching assistant should always be one level above the students being taught. So bachelor students, the TA will have already had a master's degree. Master's student, if there is a TA in the class, the student has to come from a PhD cohort. You see? So that's how it works.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
please. And just take that.
Hello. Right. Sir, so I was primarily looking at the brochure of the program I'm going to enroll in, that is the undergraduation in BA Political Science Honors. Now, sir, throughout the orientation I attended today and the previous orientation, it was highlighted about the plethora of language programs that are being offered and the plethora of international programs that are being offered. Now, if I look at my program, that is the BA Political Science Honors program, there is no language being taught in that, or there is no language being included in that course. So if I'm further, which I will, if I'm further aiming to apply to any of the programs, any of the plethora of programs provided at Jindal, the international programs, either the study abroad or either the dual degree program with a university that is in China, like the national Chengchi University, or some other university that is in a totally different country, which focuses on a totally different language. Now, how would I as a student pursue that particular language being a full-time resident at Jindal?
Thank you so much. What's your name?
It's Harsh Bhardwaj.
Harsh. Thank you, Harsh. Actually, see, the pedagogically, when we conceived the BA Political Science, our assumption was that the majority of the students are interested in domestic Indian developments and politics. So there's more of a focus on different regions of India, different states and institutions and political behavior and outcomes in all these things. But there is an international component in the curriculum. You'll find some are comparative courses. You do things like war and peace and revolutions, which are inevitably international. They're not all domestic. But the assumption has been that the ones who go for diplomacy in foreign policy or global affairs are more likely to have the need for a non-English foreign language to make a career. The assumption has been that the ones who are doing political science will find careers within India. And therefore, they won't need probably a Mandarin or Arabic or a Spanish or a French or a Farsi. But if you are interested and I see your rationale. If individually a political science student says, I want to do a language, we can easily enroll you along with our diplomacy and foreign policy and the global affairs students in a language of your choice. And we'll have to work out how that can be credited, because the curriculum right now of political science does not have a language requirement. But we can make it an optional thing, like an elective for you, and you can also learn one. There's no bar to learning. It's just that when we designed it, there was a core assumption that the ones opting for political science are less interested in a global career or an international career. So therefore, they won't need a language. But if you want one, we are ready to provide you one. And we can enroll you along with your batchmates who are from the other degree programs. You just have to tell us when you come in that you're keen about it, and we'll make sure it happens.
All right. Thank you, sir. Just one last question from my side. It's about the research centers one of the parents discussed about. Now, it was highlighted throughout the information that the research centers would be allotted or would be chosen by an individual in the very first year. So further, now, sir, you highlighted that they are very different. There are certain geographical, there are certain, like one of it Center for Intelligence Research and Analysis. Now, sir, if I'm studying in the Mediterranean sector, and if throughout my third year or fourth year, I would like to change, I would like to move more on the intelligence and analysis side. Would that be what feasible?
Yeah. So it's not like you're exclusively under one center. So Harsh, you don't have to worry about it. I know students who are attached to multiple centers. So it's not like a formal membership kind of a thing. It's not like a club. So multiple centers are fine. I mean, generally students are part of at least 2 or 3 centers over the course of their studies here. So you're not boxed into one. And sometimes I know students tend to get, like I said, their minds open up in different directions as their studies progress. So you could go into a different center after a semester or 2, or simultaneously work in multiple centers. That's fine. I mean, it all depends on your time, because you have 6 courses per semester at the bachelor's level. 6 courses, that's already a lot. And if you are opting for language, that's a 7th one. And then centers. So your days are packed here, and then there are extracurriculars and sports and social activities. So you think about it as like, you probably 3 years or 2 years will just pass by like a breeze, you just wink and you realize that it's all over. So you will not really get as much time for all things. But I like your ambition, Harsh, and I want you to do many things, and we are here to help you do that. Any other last?
So I think we are through with the question and answers for the day. And I thank you all once again. And a special thank you to my team who has been working tirelessly for arranging this for all of us. I mean, and I always say we are the actors, but they are the one who are directors and cinematographers and who work back in and arrange this for us. So thank you to the team, and thank you, Dean and our executive dean, Ambassador Thapar, Professor Rohit, Professor Manoj, for sparing out time for all of us. Now we are in a situation where we are running behind time for the campus tour, and then we have to have dinner together as well. So then we have to take a consensus where first we go for the dinner and then take the campus tour, or or skip the campus tour, or
you can do it after the dinner.
Okay. So in that case, since you all are here for the campus tour, which was important, will a quick so how many of you are in for the campus tour? Okay, so we have that's one of the main reasons they have traveled this long. Otherwise, they would have been already speaking to us and attending many of the sessions which we already done for us. So what we'll do, we'll divide the group in all of us will be divided in 3 groups, and we'll go for the quick campus tour, and post that we'll meet at the same place downstairs. We call Adda here at the campus. That's famously called by our students as well. And then we'll be dining out together. So Tanushree and Amrita and Mansi and Srishti, 4 of you, please help parents to be part of 3 different groups. And we have hostel wardens with us who will be helping you with the campus tour. And I'm already there. And I'll request if deans and professor can also join us for the dinner in later part. But that again depends upon the time availability they have. But here we are meeting again at the dinner place. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.